Good evening, Hanumantu Naik. Just put the AC on. Good evening, Hanumantu Naik. Good evening, Rekha. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Prashant, can you hear me?
Sir, good evening, sir. Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, no, because the others were not answering to other people. One has already left.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm doing typically what fashionable academicians do, which is have coffee while you're teaching. And the university that I went to for the university that I went to for doing my MA, even the students used to take coffee into class, and I was told that A few years before I went in, people even smoked in class. So that is how liberal my education was. So incidentally, I tell my students that you can have coffee, tea, lunch, anything, but not alcoholic beverages and things like marijuana and all those. Anyway, do you think we should get going?
Yes, sir.
Right, we are doing the evolution. Brief recap. I told you it comes from the French word parler, which means to speak. In French, it was parlement, place to speak, or a platform to speak, actually, would be a better thing. And in English, it became parliament. That I told you is medieval. I'm not using the medieval spelling. Medieval, which is what it is. Medieval English spelling. And sorry. Um, if you are looking at the history, the first parliament was in England. Started by the nobles or the feudal lords seeking to speak with the king about revenue, sorry, about tax collection and revenue sharing. It came into being in 1066 CE. Okay, so if you look at this is all the things that we had done yesterday. Okay, the primary reason why the nobility or the feudal lords wanted to speak to the king was uh, about the taxes, and it was about the taxes because the king was demanding high taxes even in the years where the productivity was affected by adverse weather conditions. And I told you that a feudal economy is agrarian. Looks like it's going to rain here. There's loud thunder, rolling thunder. Um, so, talking about adverse weather conditions, I welcome rain anyway. Uh, so, a feudal economy which is agrarian, in that if the king was basically not willing to reason with the feudal lords over the levy of taxes, there was a problem. And so the feudal lords, they decided to approach the king and talk to him about what should be done, how it should be done, and what would be the nature of sharing of revenue. They wanted to talk to him about this. Okay, but the king refused to budge. The king basically refused to budge till the year 1215 CE. And in 1215, it had become extremely difficult. The economy was teetering, And so at that particular time, he finally agreed to speak to the nobility or the feudal lords. And so you see that he actually relented and said, all right, let us have a meeting. So, to this meeting with the king, the feudal lords carried the now famous Magna Carta, which in English will be a mega charter. When you talk about a charter, or later on in the 19th century, they had the Chartist movement. If you're talking about the charter or the Chartist movement, what is the charter? Okay, the word charter is derived out of a chart. Please remember that. And because this is not yet days of paper, so they used to use various different kinds of things, such as parchment and other materials on which they wrote things down. So a charter was some kind of a chart, not a chart as we know it. Okay, our usage of the chart is slightly different now. Um, in that particular time, you say carte blanche in French, which is blanche is empty, white, and carte, which is charter again. Okay, so when you say charter, when people have politically, sorry, in the case of Europe, when they have submitted these different charters, uh, demands, they call them charters. Okay, so a chart of demands is what a charter was for the Brits, uh, or the British, if you like. Even today, they use it in a similar fashion. They call it a charter. So, whenever it is a political thing, all right. But here, we are not talking politics. It's only in the 19th century that charter becomes a political thing, because you must understand, and those of you who are my MA students in arts college, you must understand that it's only when I do Aristotle that you'll understand how the word polity came into being, uh, and how from not just polity, but actually the word that was used by Aristotle was this particular word, which is pronounced politia. Just like in the morning we had altia, uh, which is which stood for the way of truth as far as Parmenides was concerned. You'll find this word politia, which got translated into English as politics. Okay, so in pre Aristotelian literature, even in ancient Greece, you do not find, you basically do not find uh, a word which, you do not find a word which is like politics. And if you look at what actually happened uh, during Plato's time, what we have, what we have in Plato's time is that which is a republic, and not again in a modern sense of the term, but in an old sense of the term. But I'll do that when I talk to you people about Plato. This is not the forum for that. But it is through politia that the word politics came into being. And if you look at, if you basically look at uh, the literature that is available prior to Aristotle, you don't find this word. Uh, you find a bit of it in Plato. Now, how much of that is due to translation difficulties, I do not know. But definitely the word didn't exist before Plato. And I suspect it is also uh, in the times of, uh, I suspect it, um, wow, some thunder that. Okay. So it is only in the times of Aristotle that you should be, we'll see this usage of politics. And it is for that reason that Aristotle has been called the father of politics and the father of political science, which is an extension. He should technically not be called a father of political science. He should be just called a father of politics. Okay. But that you will find when we start doing Aristotle, how he arrived at this particular word, politia, and what it signified. And it is from this that politics came, and also the word polis, which was there, which was there before, became the basis of politia and later on in English politics. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little later when in your MA classes. That's where we will uh, talk about how politia came. But for now, let's talk about this charter. This charter, it's a mega charter because there were many demands. And I told you yesterday, our syllabus on human rights talks about human rights having originated with the Magna Carta. That is complete, unadulterated rubbish. Okay, human rights is a completely different thing, and it changed its meaning, it changed its content uh, over a period of time which only spans the 19th and 20th centuries. But uh, if you want to lay down the credit for the, the modern parlance of human rights, uh, you should, in fact, rights is a modern thing. And if you want to talk about human rights, those are the things that should, I don't know why nobody does this, but it is Thomas Paine and his book, The Rights of Man. That is one of the most significant books. It's hardly a book, it's more like a glorified pamphlet. Not a pamphlet, need not be one page, by the way. So, in that particular book, there is a talk of rights. So, that is the thing that we should remember. This Magna Carta, if you're writing in your fourth semester, I think, or in third semester, I don't know, fourth semester perhaps, you'll have a human rights paper in which people will be.
Fourth semester, sir.
Fourth semester, huh? Okay.
Yes, sir. Elective
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, it's an elective paper. And they'll tell you that it all started with the Magna Carta. It didn't have anything to do with the Magna Carta. Okay, the Magna Carta is a charter of demands presented by the feudal nobility. Okay, and like I told you yesterday, they did not see themselves as the rest of the human beings. They saw themselves as being blue blooded, and therefore they were different from everyone else. Now you must remember this phrase, blue blooded, because very shortly I shall tell you about a development that took place in the um history of the parliament, which was based on this blue blooded thing, or this idea of the blue blood. Okay, so the Magna Carta, let me make another point here. Uh, does Britain have a written constitution?
It
Uh,
has unwritten constitution, sir.
Sorry?
but they have charters, sir.
They have charters.
Mm.
They don't have a written constitution.
Okay. How many charters do they have? Any idea? Actually,
Don't know.
huh?
Don't know, sir. Maybe 15?
No, they don't have that many.
Okay.
They have about 8 or something like that. I'm also not sure of the number, but there are about 15 documents which do form a part of the British Constitution. Though most of the practices of the British Constitution are those which have evolved with history. Uh, they have evolved with history, but there are documents. So it is not an entirely unwritten thing, because and it's not as if these have been preserved for the sake of some kind of historical value, or for the sake of some curiosity. There are hidden written documents, so but they are fragmentary in nature, and therefore people will say that it doesn't have a written constitution. As such, the whole constitution is not written. That is true. To that extent, to say that there is no written constitution is fine, but you have to acknowledge the fact that there are certain things which are written by, which are written demands submitted to the king, or sometimes even to the parliament. Now, let's get back to the Magna Carta. What is the significance of the Magna Carta? The significance of the Magna Carta, while it is about how to levy taxes, how to share the revenue that has been uh, collected from the taxes, while it is all those things, it is also something which gave a which allowed the parliament, consisting of feudal lords, a say in governance. Okay, please don't use the word government. Government is technically very, very different from governance. Okay, to govern is to basically take care of. Government refers to institutions of governance, whereas governance as such is process, a process of taking care of things. Okay, so you would also see nowadays people have dropped this. There is this word called governess. How many of you have heard of this particular word? Anyone who has heard of governess?
No, sir.
No?
No.
Well, actually, if you go by pure English. All right. What is a male in a film or in a stage play? What is he or she called?
Actor,
Actor. A female?
actress,
Actress. Madam Shabana asked me for some great unknown reason, feels that it is uh, against the women if you call them actresses. So nowadays they're calling everybody actors. But if you look into English, you'll also see that if a male who sang, what is he called? A male who sings,
singer,
singer. A female who sings?
singer,
No, not at all. That is the actual word. Songstress. Okay? Never heard of it, right? A male who writes poems, what is he
Poet.
called?
Poet.
Poet. A female who writes
Poetess.
poetess. So, what is governess the female form of? Isn't it obvious?
Yes, sir.
Who is it? What will be the male form of governess be?
Governor.
Yeah. A male form of is one who governs. So strictly speaking, Telangana has a governess, not a governor. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And but because of the fact that these are words that came in much later into the language of politics, you will see that there is a great deal of difference in the way in which words are used. A governor is a governor. Incidentally, minister is a male. What is the opposite of that?
Ministress.
No. Good try, Akshay. But no. Anyone else who wants to take one shot at it? Hmm? Anyone? Right. Do you know what is the origin of the word minister?
Ministrels.
Ministrels. Where did you get that? Are you saying this? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
No, that's got nothing to do with ministers. Minstrels are those people who travel singing. They're called singing minstrels.
Bards, minstrels,
Hmm?
poets.
Bards are again different. Minstrels are different. Bards is an ancient, it's not even medieval English. It's probably ancient English, because of the fact that bard actually comes from French. Okay, a bard is somebody who is involved in the fine arts with words, one who, so that's how the word bards came. Minstrels are people who sing and travel. They are wandering, as they are called, wandering minstrels. Okay, so minstrels are basically singers. There is no female. Okay, there is no female for minister, because, can anybody give me the reason? Anybody? Why is there no? Okay, let's go back to the question that I asked. Minstrels is not the source of minister. Okay. Minstrels is not the source of minister. So do you have any idea about the word minister comes from? Okay, let's do this because these are classes where we are supposed to be doing things like this. Ministrations. Have you heard of this?
No, sir.
Has anyone heard of this word ministrations?
No, sir.
No?
No,
Nobody
sir.
has heard of ministrations.
No, sir.
Right. The thing is, ministrations are services provided to God by the church. Okay. And ministrations are done in the name of God. And if you add add to ministration, that's how you have the term administration. Administration is to give ministration, to give service. But when it comes into the non-Christian domain, it is a word that becomes devoid of the religious connotations. So administration will mean providing services to people. That's what it'll mean. Okay, administration. And that is how those who are in charge of ministrations were called ministers. Now, can you tell me why there is no female equivalent of minister or ministers? Take a pot shot. It'll be as good as any.
Because in Britain, they did not encourage for women to participate in elections.
In elections. Do you have multi-channel television?
Yes, sir.
If you have multi-channel television, if you are provided these religious channels of various religions,
Yes, sir.
you'll also find that there are channels uh, for Christians.
Yes, sir. There are many.
Yeah. So you will find this word,
Ministries.
correct? Absolutely.
Ministries.
You're right. Ministries.
Yes, sir.
Or it is also used in,
Missionaries.
huh?
Also missionaries, I guess.
No, not missionaries. That's a completely different word.
Okay, okay.
Okay, ministries it is, but it can also be in the singular. It is ministry. Okay, so you'll say ministry of the Lord. Okay, or something like that. They have various ministries, right? So ministers were people who were originally appointed by the Pope or for lower posts by cardinals and bishops. Okay, people would be appointed as ministers to carry out the functions of the church. I don't want to go too much into um, this particular thing. Okay, but what we do see is that it is minister, which is the basis of the political minister also. Okay, the minister and it is the same minister who is a religious person also came into existence in the political realm. But the question as to why there is no equivalent of a female uh, of a female to the word minister, it remains unanswered. That is because the clergy were all male. The clergy, heard of this term?
Yes, sir.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, who are the clerics? Hmm?
Sir, clerics are actually the religious leaders, especially like in Christians.
No, only in Christians, not anywhere else.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
They are
So
not
clerics are,
leaders. They are not leaders.
I mean,
Pastors are known as clergy, sir.
priests,
Clergymen.
sir. Priests.
Priests. Yeah, a low-level priest is called a cleric.
Okay.
And it is from cleric that you have the derivation of the word,
Clergy.
no, clergy, cleric, same, they are
Okay.
more or less the same. This particular word,
Clerk.
yeah, nowadays everybody says clerk, but in my time, we were told that we should speak the Queen's English. And the Queen's English was, you don't say clerk, you say clerk. Okay, so a government clerk, a clerk in a government office. And another word where you find this quaint usage is, have you heard of this word? Hmm?
Yes. Derby, sir.
What is it?
Sir?
What is it?
Sir, Derby, I exactly don't know the meaning, but I have heard it in the, I mean, it's a race, according to some, yeah. It's a race.
I hope it is a place, sir, in England.
No, that's Derbyshire. It's not pronounced Derbyshire, it's pronounced Derbyshire. Okay, it's pronounced Derbyshire. We say shire when we write shire. The British say shire for shire, and derby, derby. They don't call it derby.
Derby.
It's a derby. A derby is an event that is horse racing. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that is where it comes from. So we'll get rid of it. It has no place here. Okay, but clerk, or everybody says clerk nowadays. Ancient antediluvian people like me, we say clerk. This is something that came once again into the language of public administration and political science from religion. Okay, and all of these are rooted in Latin. Ministrations are rooted in Latin. Ministers, ministries, all of them are rooted in Latin, and they were appropriated at one time by the Church of Rome. Then you might ask, how did it come into politics, right? Especially considering the fact that after Aristotle, the word political, politics, these words, they disappear. They reappear only in a limited way with Machiavelli, but in a slightly bigger way with Thomas Hobbes, But the full-blown appearance of that is with John Locke. Okay, but there are centuries when that word politics and its derivatives, whatever they may be, political, all these disappear. They're not there. Okay, so if you basically look at what actually happened, this is due to the entry of all these into uh, into the vocabulary of politics is because of King Henry the Eighth and Reformation. How many of you have heard of King Henry the Eighth?
No, sir. Didn't
Nobody?
hear.
All right. How many of you have heard of Reformation?
Reformation.
Yeah.
I have heard, sir.
Yes, sir.
Of what, Akshay? Reformation or also of King Henry the Eighth?
Reformation, sir. It is a movement in Europe, like
Roman.
Renaissance.
Yeah.
Like Renaissance?
Not like Renaissance. It's
It is
actually.
after Renaissance, rebirth of culture.
Okay. So Reformation did happen after Renaissance.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. For now, I'll ask you to keep track of this. I'm going to not talk about this anymore. Okay. King Henry the Eighth and the Reformation and what Max Weber calls the Protestant, what kind of Protestant ethic. Okay, I want you to keep this in the back of your mind, right? Because we'll be returning, not today, on another day, we will return to these. Okay, we will return to these developments. So it is because of some of the things that were done by King Henry VIII, taking advantage of the uh, Reformation movement, which was started by, any idea?
Martin Luther.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Martin Luther, since he started the Reformation movement, it is a very, very funny thing. Things start in Europe and they end up in England, though you will say England is a part of Europe. I'm saying that it's a separate island, right? The British Isles. So you have the Renaissance that takes place in Italy, but the real effects of Renaissance are felt in England. Okay, the first Enlightenment, as it is called, the first Enlightenment, as it is called, you find that the echoes of that, not just the echoes, the actual thing happening more in England, you don't find it happening in Italy, even though that is where it started, the Renaissance. The Reformation happened in, again, Italy and Germany, but the full effects of that are in this little country called England or Britain. So it's a very significant country, historically speaking, especially for us students of political science. For us, this is a very, very historically significant country. Okay, now, anyway, to get back to the Magna Carta, the Magna Carta, the governess, by the way, I have to finish this. A governess was appointed by people to provide education and to look after children of the wealthy. These days, you have this thing which is very famous in America. Have you heard of this? Homeschooling. It's become very famous in America. Two things have become famous in America.
Yes, sir.
One is homeschooling. The other is community colleges. Any idea what these are? Okay. Homeschooling should be self-explanatory. You provide schooling to your child at home. Okay. And why would you do that? Because America has two systems of schools, or two kinds of schools. I'm sorry. One which is called a private school, and the other one which is called a public school, right? Now, private school is self-explanatory. A private school is run by a private management. A public school is run by the state with the money collected as taxes. Okay. So this is exactly the opposite. It is very prestigious if you've been to a private school. Okay, if you've been to a private school, it is very, very prestigious. It is not so prestigious to go to a public school. Now, in India, we have the public school system. We have Hyderabad Public School, which is what was there when I was a kid. And my cousin was a couple of years older than me, studied in the Hyderabad Public School, that too the one in Begumpet. There are two Hyderabad public schools, one in Begumpet and the other in Ramantapur. The Ramantapur school it follows the CBSE curriculum. The Begumpet school follows the ICSE, which is also called the Cambridge curriculum or the international curriculum. Okay, so it is a very, very elitist institution, even today. The Hyderabad Public School at Begumpet. Okay. Then you actually had what is simply called the Doon School, but it was the Dehradun Public School, which simply came to be called nowadays the Doon School. It is in fact so prestigious that Amitabh Mattu, Professor Amitabh Mattu, who also served as a Vice Chancellor of the University of Jammu, he went to Doon School as the principal of that particular school. Amitabh Mattu, if you read, if you follow international relations, you will hear his name. Okay, so the Doon School is the Dehradun Public School, but now the most famous or the most common, I should say, public school is have you seen these schools in Hyderabad? Delhi Public School?
Yes, sir. There are few places,
Few places. How many? Pray tell
maybe
me.
one or maybe one or two, I don't know. But yeah, DPS, the logo will be there in few places, Delhi Public School.
Yeah, the Delhi Public School has franchisee operations, which means you must have heard, if you have been listening to reading the newspaper, Citibank is quitting 11 countries, including India, from retail banking. Have you heard of this news? Any of you?
No, sir.
No? Okay. It came about 4 days back. Citibank is quitting the retail banking in 11 countries, including one of them being India. Okay. And that is because these are franchisee operations. What are franchisee operations? A franchisee is one who, a franchise or a franchisee is one who uses your name and runs that particular institution as per the rules set by you. Now, in India, public schools came into being because members, prominent members of the public, were those who were involved in the setting up of these schools. So they had to form what is called a public society. Though it's called a public society, the entry into that particular society is completely at the discretion of the management. Not everybody can get into the membership of the school committee. Now, for the Delhi Public School, usually the chairman of the public school, Delhi Public School Committee, is either the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court or at least a Justice of the Supreme Court. Okay, that person will be a chairman. And these are highly prestigious schools, public schools in India. And Delhi Public School has started giving franchisee operations. So there are two franchisees here in Hyderabad. One of them happens to be an old classmate of mine. When I say an old classmate, he's as a classmate also, he's old since we went to the same school, and he's also old in age like me. Okay. So that particular franchisee is called the Vidyananda Educational Society. So if you look at a Delhi school, public school bus, look at the lower side to see if it has Vidyananda Educational Society. Okay, they have three schools. One in Khajaguda in the financial district on the way to Nanakram Guda. And they have a second one at Diamond Point. Okay, next to the transport road or Karkhana as it is called. And they have a third one in Miapur. Apart from this, there is another franchisee operation of the Delhi Public School, which was first brought to Hyderabad by a Sikh couple, and they didn't have the might to withstand my friend and his political, what should I say, muscle. So they sold it to a politician who goes by the name of Komaraya, and he runs the Delhi Public School Nacharam. Okay, there's one Delhi Public School in Nacharam, and there is a pre-primary and primary school somewhere in Secunderabad. I can't remember which area it is. That is where the Sikh couple had started it. They couldn't grow, so they sold it to Komaraya. And this Komaraya is somebody who also runs another elitist group of institutions called the Pallavi schools. I don't know if you've heard of them. I've heard of them. Anyway, so in India, when we talk about public schools are, this is a British model. So in Britain, the great schools, public schools, are two great schools that I can think of immediately. One is Eton, E-A-T-O-N, and the other is Harrow. These are public schools, and they are prestigious, incredibly expensive. In America, it's exactly the opposite. Public schools are expensive, but nowhere near as expensive as the private schools are. They are prohibitively expensive. And that is why this thing came up, homeschooling, which is where you have, I'll say, I'm a parent, I'm quite educated. I shall allow my child to study at home. I shall educate them myself. That's one way of doing it. And another way of doing it is hiring some kind of a teacher, not very accomplished, who will not cost a bomb, to come and educate the child at home. So that is homeschooling. Community colleges are where a community sets up a college, a community of people. Say, let's talk about Fremont in California. Fremont, Sunnyvale, these are regions where there are literally um thousands of Indians, lakhs of Indians. And what they have done is they have set up community colleges so that, because Indians don't get paid very well, and they've set up community colleges where their wards go to for studies. The community colleges are not empowered to give degrees. So for the final year, as you know, in America, it's a 4-year undergraduate program that they have. So for the final year, they'll have to go to some university in order to get a degree. A community college cannot give you that. Neither can homeschooling give you a degree, but there are exams that you write as a private candidate, which is there even in India. And nowadays in Telangana, you have this open school system. Are you aware of this? This,
Yes, sir.
what is an open school, Akshay?
Those who are droppers, they will write.
No. An open school is actually inspired by an open university. Okay, now let me wipe these out. Open universities and open schools are technically called extramural education, which is outside of a classroom. We have the Indira Gandhi National Open University, and we have the
B.R. Ambedkar.
Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University in Hyderabad, which is the first open university in the country, by the way. In those days, it was called the Andhra Pradesh Open University. So you have,
Madurai Kamraj.
yes, that has now become an open university.
Vinayaka Missions.
Hmm?
Vinayaka Missions University, Salem.
Yes, there are many now. But the first open university was the Andhra Pradesh Open University. And the second university, which was set up at a national level, was the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Okay. Both were done by Professor Ram Reddy, who once belonged to the Osmania University. Anyway, so it's called extramural education. Okay. Now, this extramural education was favored by the rich and the famous in England. So they used to not send their children to schools because that was meant for common people. Even Eton and Harrow were below their dignity. So they would have a governess they would have a governess who would stay full time in the home of the rich people and educate the children about not just things that were there in the curriculum to be educated, but about all the things in life. And the rich and the famous also started this particular concept of a finishing school. Heard of this? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. Do a Google search and you'll get, why Google search? Do an Alta Vista search or whatever search engine you like. A finishing school was to polish people and make them acceptable to the rich and the famous. So typically, when finishing schools came into being in Britain, they were all about what kind of clothes to wear for what kind of an occasion and what kind of uh, cutlery to use while eating a particular dish. Like louts like me don't know when to use a fork, when to use a spoon. Okay, and we all eat with a spoon and we all eat with our right hand. But the British way of doing it is the knife in the right hand, the fork in the left hand, put the fork into a piece of meat, cut with a knife and eat with the left. So that is a finishing school, that which tells you these things. That's how it started. But now finishing school has gained a completely new meaning because, and this has happened in India. Okay, this has happened primarily because of one reason, and that is people go to colleges but do not get the kind of education that they are supposed to get, which means that their knowledge is not commensurate with the degree that they hold. So finishing schools have sprouted up in order to provide that knowledge which is missing among those who have gone to these colleges, especially engineering colleges, where, you know, a BTech will teach a BTech. All right. And that is the state of our education today. So a finishing school has come to polish people up and bring them up in their what should we say, make them employable, which is what I thought I should also do, but it's very expensive. And since I wanted to impart free things to people, I did not use this at all. Okay. So that is what a finishing school is now in India. But abroad, it meant mainly for women and to make them more attractive and to get them better suitors for a wedding. Anyway, so let's come back here. Feudal lords, a say in governance. So they started having a say in governance with the Magna Carta. Okay, with the Magna Carta, you have the uh, feudal lords now coming in with a say in matters pertaining to governance, but that would still be in matters which are economic. Political isn't there. Please remember, the word has disappeared. Okay, the word has disappeared. So the parliament acquires for the first time some powers. For the first time, it acquires some powers. Now, I asked you to remember one expression. Anyway, I'll not talk about that now. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, now if we are talking about the parliament, when we say it acquired some powers, it wanted the king to consult parliament. Okay, before taking decisions, it wanted to be consulted. And these are again with reference to taxation and things like that. But the parliament also had two kinds of members. Okay, those whom we called the peers. Remember this word from yesterday? And the other one, which is called the knights. Do you remember this? I didn't use the word knights yesterday, but the peers. Peers are actually today, when we talk about peers, we mean equals. Okay, we mean equals, but in those days, peers who were equals were the lords, who were by birth lords. Peers, therefore, were lords by birth. Whereas the knights had to be conferred a title, which would be the equivalent of a lord, but they were not born lords. Okay, so this is where, now do you recall what I'm talking about? Which phrase I asked you to remember? Akshay,
Sir,
do you remember I asked you at the beginning to remember a phrase?
Blue-blooded.
Blue-blooded. Correct. So the peers wouldn't treat the knights as their equals. Why? Because this category were not blue-blooded. They were not blue-blooded. So they refused to treat them as their equals. And in doing so, they started a war with the knights. Okay, who are the knights? Okay, there are number of ranks. I'm going to mention just a few. One which is called MBE, or Member of the British Empire. These actually came a little later, but I'm still mentioning them. OBE, or Order of the British Empire. But in the beginning, there were only knights who were called Sir. In our country, everybody is called Sir, which is a good thing. Okay. We have divested that thing of its elitist conceptions, right? Only the knights were called Sir. How many of you play chess? Kavya, do you play chess?
I play chess, sir. Even
No, 1 second. I want to see if Kavya is there or if she's gone for a walk. Kavya. Hello, Kavya. Kavya has gone for a walk. Prashant.
Sir,
Ah, you're there. Good. Rakesh. Rakesh,
Sir,
you're also there.
sir.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
You just heard me. You were listening to, you're doing something else and suddenly you heard your name. Okay. So Sharwani, you play chess
yes, sir. Sometimes.
sometimes.
Yes,
Ak-
sir.
So Akshay, do you play chess?
I don't know, sir, how to play.
Okay. So we'll talk to Sharwani. Can you play chess, Prashant?
yes, sir.
So how does a knight look? That piece,
Like a horse.
like a horse. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, the knight doesn't look like a horse. The knight is supposed to be riding the horse.
But nowadays the pawn, like that chess pawns are being so small, tiny.
Sir, knights
They're
are actually soldiers, no, sir?
Yes.
like a riding horse.
Yeah.
I've
Knights were people who were soldiers and whose bravery won them that knighthood. Okay. Their bravery and their valor, they showed qualities which were extraordinary, and so they were knighted. and
Yes.
called Sir. The others came later, this member of the British Empire, Order of the British Empire, they came later. Okay, but the peers had their own hierarchy. Lord, Baron, Earl, Duke, right? These were the kind of hierarchy that they had. Uh, just as we had in India, Zamindar,
Jagirdar.
Subedar, Mansabdar, Jagirdar. And talking of Hyderabad Public School, it was originally called Jagirdar College. Okay, later on it became Hyderabad Public School.
So was it a college? Like,
Yeah, yes, it was a college, but only for intermediate
okay.
or pre-university. And it also used to offer an exam called matriculation, which was there till a few years ago. It was offered by Usmania University and even by the Andhra University. It was called Usmania Metric or Andhra Metric. Matriculation is the equivalent of the school leaving, secondary school leaving certificate, which was originally called
12th.
SSLC. No, not 12th, 10th.
Okay, okay. 10th. Okay.
Yeah, SSLC was what it was called. Later
Okay.
on, it became SSC. It was a school leaving certificate saying that you're going to another level. Okay, and in our country, we have undergraduate and postgraduate because graduation is a process. Okay, when you graduate, you acquire a degree. Once you've acquired a degree, then you go to the next level, which is postgraduate, which means that you have graduated from undergraduation. But the Americans don't do it that way. The Americans look at it as undergraduate, which is your bachelor's, and their master's programs are called uh, basically graduate programs, and their postgraduate programs are PhD, which is not like our PhD, but I'm not going to go into those details right now. And they also have different system of numbering in the lifts. Okay, we have ground floor, first floor, second floor. For them, the ground floor is the first floor, the first floor is the second floor, the third floor. So if you go to America and search for ground floor, you won't find it in the lift. So they like to be different. Okay, they like to be contrarians, do everything against how the British did. Anyway, so the knights were called Sir. Now the problem here is the peerages considered themselves to be superior to the knights. So the knights didn't want to take this anymore. And so the parliament split into two. Kavya, you still away? Huh? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you're away.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know. I was asking you some questions, didn't get response. So I knew you were away. All right. So 1341 CE is the year that you see that the parliament splits into two and it becomes What is bicameral? Anyone?
Two parts,
Yes, sir.
two houses.
Two houses?
Yes, sir. 2 hours.
No. Actually, a camerum
Having 2 houses.
is a chamber.
Chamber.
It's from Latin. A camerum is a chamber. So it became bicameral, means that it had
2 chamber.
two chambers.
Lower house and the Senate.
No, there was no lower house and upper house. Not yet. Okay. So what were the two houses?
House of Lords and House of People.
House of Commons.
Commons, yeah. House of Commons.
Who were the commons?
The one who represented the common, like people.
Did you have democracy in 1341
No, sir.
anywhere in the world?
No, sir. Actually, you asked this question before, sir, why it is called as House of Commons. When I actually researched it, it came out that those people in House of Commons used to take the like one of the like in a place I saw that those people used to take the like problems of the people commons, and they used to report it in the chamber. Like there are different types of theories in different websites and different pages, so we exactly don't know why it is called as House of Commons. It was your question.
Yeah. Kavya knows, so she's going to tell us now.
Commons were the people who were knighted by the king.
Why were they called commons then? They should have been called knights, right? Why commons? The membership of the House of Commons did consist of knights. You're right. But why was it called the House of Commons? Professor Akshay?
I want to be civil servant, sir, not a professor.
Okay. So Akshay IAS, please tell me.
I don't know, sir.
You don't know. Dr. Prashant? Prashant?
Sir,
Why House of Commons?
don't know, sir.
Don't know. I should probably say, even I don't know. Let's forget it. But I'm not going to say that.
Sir, it's not fair.
No, I'm not going to say that. It was called the
It's
House.
not fair, sir.
You heard of this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is Commonwealth?
The countries which are colonies of British, sir.
Okay.
Like it's
Colonies
an association of like number of states, countries.
So why were they called Commonwealth?
Like the superior authority was like how superior authority was like vested in the people, sir.
See, if you, let me ask you another question. How many states were there originally in the United States of America at the time of the,
13.
ah, that was fast. That was really fast.
And
Okay.
loud.
No, not very loud. Don't say that. Kavya is my child. Don't say anything to her.
I mean, I told that as a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, right. I held that thing for too long. So there were 13 states. And what are these called even today?
Um, no idea. So
They are called New England. These 13 original states, they are called the New England region because this is where you had the English settlers. So if you saw a serial called The Practice or Boston Legal, have any of you seen this?
started to watch that practice. Number of seasons were 8, so I thought I'll be watching slowly.
Hmm,
Couldn't understand in the beginning.
okay. But did you see any courtroom scene?
No, sir, I haven't reached till that. So now you have suggested I'll watch it. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
continue watching it.
Okay. Okay. Um, what do we say in an Indian court? We have a plaintiff and you have a defendant, right? So if the prosecution of the defendant is happening by a government pleader, as it was once called, and now a public prosecutor, what do we say? Kavya drew one small line. I don't know why. What do we hear? Kavya is drawing all kinds of lines.
Sir, it was by mistake, sir.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Didn't get the question, sir. Will you repeat it, please?
Have you heard of the Keshavananda Bharati case?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So please tell me how it is described, the technical description of that.
Parliament can amend the constitution without the.
No, I'm not talking about the verdict and all that. I am talking about how was the case described.
State of
Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala.
One second. What were you saying, Prashant? Prashant.
Sir, State of Kerala versus Keshananda Bharati.
Right. State of Kerala versus Keshavananda Bharati. Okay. If you see what happens in the courts of New England, especially in Massachusetts, whose capital Boston is, you will find them saying Commonwealth versus so and so. Even now. Oh, it's not Commonwealth. I'm sorry. Commonwealth versus so and so. So what is the Commonwealth? By the way, when did colonialism begin approximately in India? Quickly,
1498.
quick.
1498.
1498. When did the British come to India?
1600.
1680.
Hmm?
1680.
1680. So was India a part of the Commonwealth from 1600?
I guess it
No,
has
sir.
become later, sir. Not guess. It has
When
become
did it become a part of the Commonwealth?
After 1950.
After 1950? No,
1773, sir. After the regulation act.
1773.
Regulation act.
Hmm?
After the regulation act.
What was the Regulation Act?
To appoint the governor generals across India.
Yeah, but it was the British East India Company that appointed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it is after the,
1857.
yes, in 1858, India ceased to be under the rule of the British East India Company. It came under the rule of the Crown of England. So the Governor General became Viceroy. The designation changed. Viceroyalty. Okay, so it became Viceroy and it became a part of the British Commonwealth. So now that should give you a clue. What is Commonwealth?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what is it? Kavya? Kavya?
Sir, sir,
Hmm. Did you get a clue from 1858? It came
no,
under
sir.
the, right. See, anything that was under the, or that which belonged to the king or queen of England was the Commonwealth.
ఆయనకు అప్పుడే తెలుసు.
Okay, that is the Commonwealth. It is, why is it called the Commonwealth? Would be a very good question to ask. It'll be a good question to ask because Commonwealth denotes what is called the realm of the commons. And the realm of the commons were usually lands in the beginning and later on other properties of the king. Okay, it is medieval English again at work when we talk about commons. Okay, what belonged to the king was called the commons. because in medieval English, the realm of commons is actually the entire people of a country. Okay, in medieval English, that is what it is. The entire people of a country, including the common people, they were the property of the king. So the entire country was the property of the king, and that is why it was called the realm of commons. So Commonwealth, India becomes a part of that. That means that we also were, we meaning our forefathers, were the property of the king or the queen, right? So that is how the House of Commons came into being. The properties of the king were called the commons because everything belonged to the king. The House of Lords, on the other hand, consisted of peerages who had land by birth, and their lands they had ownership over. The commons did not have ownership over the lands that they were looking after. They belonged to the king. Okay, so when they were taunted as not being blue-blooded, they became the House of Commons. So the thing that you read in your intermediate and graduation textbooks, bicameral parliament, parliament is legislature, point number one. Where is the legislation? There is no legislation here. Two, parliament, which is bicameral, is suitable for big countries. Unicameral is suitable for small countries. How big is England that it should have bicameral legislature? It's not even a legislature, it's become a legislature now. Okay, a parliament. Let's not call it a legislature. A parliament didn't start as a legislature. It's only towards the end of the 19th century that it became a legislature, proper legislature. Otherwise, it wasn't. Okay. So I think we should stop here now. By now, I think people must be wondering when I'll stop.
No, sir.
Hmm? See,
Oh, sir, it's interesting.
These discussions will be a lot more freewheeling than the classes, okay? Because I don't have a curriculum or a syllabus rather. I have a curriculum framework. I don't have a syllabus to complete. I want to give you as much information as possible so that Akshay can become IAS and Kavya, I don't know what she wants to become. I don't know what Sharwani wants to become. But whatever you people want to become, please remember that you need to have this knowledge. Okay? So we'll stop here today. And tomorrow we'll try and finish off the discussion on the parliament. All right?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you,
So thank you
Akshay.
so much, sir.
Thank you, Kavya. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Sharwani. And thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
Prashant. Thank you, Rakesh, who kept coming and going. Who else is there still? Please tell me, who have I missed out? I have missed out somebody.
Sir, good evening, Soumya.
Soumya, sorry, Soumya.
Sir, Soumya.
Yeah, yes, sorry, Soumya. Thank you, Soumya. Who else is there so that I can thank you?
Krubarani.
Kruparani. Thank you, Kruparani. I think Hanumantu also joined again. Or did he leave?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Hanumantu Naik. And B. Kirti.
Yes, sir.
Is it a he or a she?
She, sir.
She. So is she still there?
No, sir. She left.
In the middle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Is this all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay then.
Sir, will you conduct the test also like Rajesh, sir?
No, I won't conduct tests. I'm not a believer in tests. I don't believe in tests.
Okay, sir.
I'll tell you tomorrow why I don't believe in tests.
Okay, sir.
No, seriously. I'll tell
Because
you.
it's invented by a Chinese man.
No. Nothing like that. I have philosophical reasons.
Okay.
Okay. I don't like tests, exams. I don't like that.
So you would you like in your college days? What was your capability of writing the exams? Like you used to exaggerate the answer sheet, or you just write to the point?
I used to write to the point.
In post graduation.
Both in post-graduation, undergraduation, intermediate, school, I wrote to the point. I didn't put subheadings and underline them with colorful inks and didn't do all those things.
One of our lecturers have told us to write whatever we wish to fill the papers in
No.
the final year.
Kavya will tell you that some of her classmates wrote instructions of the hall ticket and actually passed the exam.
Is that really? I mean,
Yeah.
is it just a joke, or
No,
did it
it is a
happen?
serious thing.
Not a joke.
What
It's
an
not
irony.
what irony. What is complete. I don't know. I don't want to use swear words. So let's leave it at that. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
Shubhratri,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah. Oh, tomorrow there's no class. I don't want to spoil your Ram Navami. We'll have it day after tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Happy Ram Navami. Enjoy yourself.
Same
You
to
too,
you.
sir.
No,
Happy Ram Navami.
don't do that Jai Sri Ram thing. I have a friend. I won't tell you his name. He's a vice chancellor now. He loves drinking, and he also used to eat green chilies before he drank. I don't know why. And he used to pick up his whiskey glass and say, Jai Sri Ram. Mhm. Like the Westerners would say, cheers. And so there was this guy who would say Jai Sri Ram, and there were all his pals sitting around who would say Jai Sri Ram and drink whiskey and eat chilies. So
Sriram would die for this.
would die for the drink?
No, sir. No, for using his name for I mean, back then it was unethical, right? So yeah,
I don't know. Somras was there.
yeah,
Mm,
Surapano.
So I don't think it was ever a bad thing.
Yeah,
Never.
kings used to drink, sir, except few.
Why?
I mean,
Even all kinds of people used to drink different kinds of hooch. The drink is as old as mankind. Okay. All right. See you then.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Good night. Bye, sir.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, sir.
Bye.